Hello again, everyone. It's great seeing you again. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather on this 20th day of January, 2020. And my vision, well, it used to be my vision, now it's probably something like 40-40. Anyway, moving on to the hazardous weather graphics. Northern southeast coast here, we've got, or up Klondike Highway, Taya Inlet, on up toward Haines, on up toward, I think, White Pass. Winter weather advisory continues for continued snowfall until 9 p.m. this evening, and may pick up another couple of inches from now until then, or until 9 p.m. Monday evening, and then it should taper off and be pretty much over for a couple of days, and drier to the south. In fact, that's the only place in the state that has any kind of a watch, warning, or advisory. Was the Haines Borough there, Klondike Highway. Nothing for the interior and nothing out west for the next, well, for tonight through tomorrow. And satellite imagery showing moisture here with a disturbance pulling north and northwestward, and slow moving, putting a fair amount of snow down Prince William Sound, especially western Prince William Sound, into Portage Valley and Whittier, Turnagain Arm. I believe Mount Alyeska picked up a foot of snow today in 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. And snow anywhere from 3 to 5 inches in the greater Anchorage area, give or take, and 6 to 8 inches falling over the northern Kenai Peninsula from Soldotna and Kenai on up. I think, let's see, Moose Pass had 6 inches of snow there, and I'm sorry, Turnagain Pass had 6 to 8 inches of snow during the 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. today, and really a lot lighter amounts to nothing at all falling farther to the north. And out here over the Bering Sea, we've got cold upper level low spinning right through here, pulling cold air out of the Russian Far East down into the western Bering, takes a turn to the east here, and that westerly flow on the south side of this system is pushing weak bands of snow showers, continuing to push them into the coastal areas here, and they sort of just dissipate as they move inland. But that pattern continuing today from the Chukchi Sea down across the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, light snow showers or flurries along the southwest coast there, and not quite reaching the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians, and then looks like snow showers kind of on the increase there for the Pribilofs today, with winds gusting upwards of 35 miles an hour at St. George, otherwise lighter winds, and no precipitation across the Aleutians today. And nice day, Kodiak, Bristol Bay, seeing some clearing up through here and toward the Bethel area. And the Panhandle system moving through trough, seeing some clearing over the southern southeast coast today. That ahead of this next system here, which will be spreading moisture up during the day tomorrow, along with some milder temperatures. And then the snow heaviest over the northern Panhandle, that extends back along the North Gulf Coast. And more of a wind situation over the inland areas. Potato Point still seeing outflow winds gusting 35 miles an hour, which is down considerably from what they had been, 53, 55 miles an hour yesterday. But quite windy up in the up at Delta Junction there, north side of the Alaska Range, seeing gusts to 40 miles an hour and 40 to 45 miles an hour today, with temperature at least on the plus side of zero at, I believe, about 8 degrees at mid-afternoon. And so still kind of windy there through the passes of the eastern Alaska Range. Otherwise, winds much lighter, except up at Red Dog. They're seeing gusts up to 50 miles per hour, and Point Hope, 40 to 45 miles an hour there. Otherwise, winds that's about the windiest area, is not much of a factor. And rolling this through again, you can see slow moving. So the snow we got going on now here across south central Alaska, it's going to be slow to end, but should begin to taper off later tonight. And again, mixed rain and snow with a mixed rain and snow pattern mostly along and off the coast, and then cutting across the panhandle there. Some areas just seeing rain like Sitka, and then that tapering off though down to the south, temperatures in the lower 40s, and much chillier up to the north with the snow continuing to fall throughout the afternoon. Below freezing temperatures there in toward Lynn Canal on up to White Pass. Then this low complex here, mostly a cold upper level low with a weak reflection at the surface, 987 millibars right through here. And again, cold air dropping down out of the Russian Far East, then taking a turn to the east here and pushing these areas of light snow into the west coast up to the Seward Peninsula. And that's going to continue the whole pattern, gradually shifting eastwards. So that's going to be pushing inland. So these will be coming in a little farther to the east. And for tonight, still have a zone there across southwest interior of light snow or flurries, light snow showers, a little bit of a break over the deltas, and the next band coming on shore later tonight, yet another trough. Really a whole mess, a lot of snow showers out here associated with this, and it's going to start a downward trend in the temperatures again, especially here over southern Alaska in the next couple of days. Otherwise, kind of a default high, really just a lack of storminess, not really such a presence of high pressure here. And the snow tapers off, ends. Look for some clearing in Cook Inlet that they're seeing down toward Kodiak today in Bristol Bay. That's going to be working northeastward. Areas of light snow diminishing but persisting along the North Gulf Coast from Prince William Sound into the northern Panhandle, kind of a mixed pattern down here a little farther to the south. And then rain should, at least by tomorrow morning, later tonight, after midnight, start working its way north and northwest here over the southern Panhandle associated with this system down to the south. North Slope Arctic coast stays clear. Might get grazed with a little bit of flurry condition there in lower ceilings, visibilities. Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, I think Point Lay will escape. Definitely the central and east side will be pretty nice with light winds. And the outlook for tomorrow, trough through here brings chance of snow showers, mostly cloudy skies with it. A break south of that trough. Another one here persisting south central Alaska, but we won't see the snow amounts we saw today, just scattered snow showers or periods of very light snow. Nothing really all that significant in accumulations, and even less of that over the northern Panhandle. Rain and snow showers will be pretty limited, and that area of moisture having trouble really working up. After it works up, then it kind of retreats a little bit, but still a chance of rain over the southern southeast coast with any elevation at all. That'll be in the form of snow. High pressure building in, taking over the southern Bering Sea, south central Bering Sea. Sunny skies, Adak and Atka. Isolated snow showers, Shimia there. Some moisture sneaks up the west side of this high center. And then dry northeast winds there. Eastern Aleutians partly to mostly sunny tomorrow with light winds. Maybe a chance of snow showers for the Pribilof Islands. Areas of light snow or flurries. Patchy fog here through the Bering Strait. And again, as this system pulls eastward, that'll be coming into the Kuskokwim Valley and into northeast Bristol Bay, at least a chance of snow showers. Areas of light snow a little bit more widespread with this trough up over the northwest. Outlook for Wednesday, high pressure shifts eastward a little bit. That low weakens but still hangs up, especially aloft. It shows up a little bit better there. So still some flurries, light snow showers, but not quite as extensive. This trough just kind of stuck and lost its way there, so it's going to keep an area of clouds and light snow and flurries in that area. Weak high pressure, some clearing. Tanana Valley, Fairbanks, Nenana through the Denali Park area down at Cook Inlet. Kodiak Island clear. Bristol Bay mostly clear. Eastern Aleutians mostly clear. Probably be some clouds scattered around in here, but even the Pribilofs will probably see some clearing of light winds. And the next system pushes rain into the southern southeast coast. Mixture of rain or snow increasing throughout the day, kind of sliding up that trough axis there into the Yukon. And a more vigorous system now coming onto the scene here in the afternoon. Could see gale force winds out over the western Aleutians with snow trending toward rain. Looking at the low temperatures for tonight, anywhere from 25 to maybe toward 40 below. Coldest up over the Yukon Flats, a little below zero on portions of the Arctic coast, above zero, definitely above zero along the southwest coast. Lower 20s, Pribilofs, mostly in the 20s for the Aleutians, and 25 to 35 for the Panhandle. teens. South central Alaska will be into the upper teens to lower 20s for your highs tomorrow. 25 at Homer will keep the boat harbor froze over. Low mid-30s for Kodiak, and the following morning, back down single numbers here. South central Alaska, teens along the coast, mid-30s southern panhandle, followed by highs in the minus 20s. Yukon Flats, generally below zero north of the Alaska Range, single numbers to the west, and chillier here again over south central Alaska.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to aviation, first flying weather graphic here, significant weather showing IFR in areas from St. Lawrence Island on down along the southwest coast, northeast Bristol Bay, VFR, and a lot of marginal VFR with some areas of VFR along the Aleutians there out in the Bering Sea, a narrow band of VFR there. South side of St. Lawrence Island, across Nunivak Island, but not quite reaching the Alaska Peninsula. Some IFR here over Kodiak Island, and a little bit up over the central North Gulf Coast here, mostly inland areas or along the coast of Prince William Sound. Maybe some IFR starting out here northern Cook Inlet, up along toward Isabel Pass, north central interior, south of the Brooks Range, IFR northern Panhandle. Marginal VFR becomes VFR off to the southeast. And for the afternoon, areas of marginal VFR with actually some pretty good areas of VFR mixed in for the southeast coast, with the IFR back off the coast, up into Yakutat though, and marginal for the North Gulf Coast. Still have a zone here, possible IFR, Talkeetnas, on down toward maybe western Prince William Sound. I think it'll probably be marginal though, and areas of VFR over the interior. Areas of marginal VFR with less in the way of IFR here along the southwest coast, Norton Sound, right there near Teller and Tin City. And North Slope looking pretty good, and the Arctic coast looking even better. And the Bering Sea, no change, areas of marginal VFR with some VFR thrown in. And for the next day, VFR becomes a little more widespread out here over the eastern Bering Sea, as you can see. Still kind of marginal there on the Fox Islands. Kodiak, marginal on the east side, right along the coast, otherwise VFR. And the interior, areas of VFR, areas of marginal VFR, and isolated areas of IFR up there in the northwest. And along the eastern Alaska Range, Panhandle looks pretty IFR-ish for the day or for the morning on Wednesday. And the afternoon, that pretty much holds solid central and southern southeast coast in toward Dixon Entrance, and then VFR looks like from say Elfin Cove to Yakutat, marginal VFR North Gulf Coast, areas of marginal VFR, not really widespread here over the interior, kind of a band right through here that expands to IFR out toward the far western Arctic coast, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and also there the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island VFR, as well as Yukon, Kuskokwim Delta areas, Kuskokwim Valley VFR, Cook Inlet VFR, Madanuska-Susitna Valley, same thing, Alaska Peninsula, eastern Bering Sea, mostly VFR, a little more marginal to the west. Passes Anaktuvik and Adigan, both occasionally marginal tomorrow with not much discernible trend in conditions. Lake Clark and Merrill, though, I think will be VFR the entire day. Rainy starting out, marginal becoming VFR during the morning, and for windy, marginal VFR early, then VFR late morning through the afternoon. Isabel IFR becoming marginal, and Mintasta VFR, Tanita marginal VFR, trending toward VFR conditions early. And for Portage, occasional marginal VFR, possible IFR eastern entrance, just a threat though. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, not much to see here at the surface along the Aleutians, up along the North Gulf Coast, cutting down across the Panhandle, 2,000 feet, southern southeast coast, 4,000 feet for the Queen Charlottes. Areas of scattered light mixed icing here, the Panhandle, especially down to the south, and with continued southerly flow here, western interior, some areas, there's some threats of light mixed icing here up to the North Slope and over the northern Bering Sea. And the jet stream, upper level low there, Russian Far East, we've got westerly flow across the Bering here, And a trough swinging in, not really strong, but that keeps the moisture in, clouds, chance of snow. Another branch here cutting into the northern panhandle, the main jet though well to the south, and 9,000 feet, not too bad wind-wise, 10 to 15 knots, 20 knots along the coast, 30 to 35 northern Bering Sea, 15 to 20 for the panhandle or less. High pressure, light winds for the Aleutians. And at 3,000 feet, westerly flow 20 to 25 across the Bering Sea, light and variable under high pressure over the Aleutians, pretty light over the interior as well, and maybe 10 to 15 knots out of the southwest from Bristol Bay up along the North Gulf Coast, light winds over the panhandle. Turbulence, none significant expected. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us today is Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Thank you for joining us, Eric.
My pleasure, Dave.
Thank you. And you're joining us here to talk a little bit more about satellites and how satellites work, and especially one neat feature that's working over Alaska right now. What is that?
Well, there's a lot of weather satellites and a lot of instruments on these satellites, and there are new generations going up and new instruments. This includes something called the Day-Night Band, which is not a cover band at the local bar, but it's a new satellite that is very useful, especially here in Alaska, especially in the winter.
In the wintertime, yeah, that makes it a little bit hard to use some of the normal tools that we associate with weather satellite imagery.
Right. You know, one of the classic weather satellite instruments is just visible light. What would the human eye see if you were riding on a weather satellite yourself and looked down and it was black and white? You'd see the clouds reflecting the sunlight. And we've got an example from the Pacific Ocean. There's a geostationary satellite, and we can see that the eastern side of the image is in daylight. The western side, it's night over there, so you don't see anything because there's no sunlight over there. And visible imagery, it's very intuitive. You see the clouds just like you see them standing on the ground, but now you're a satellite seeing them from above. But the problem is, what about the night side of the planet? How do you track the storms? How do you know where the rain is, the snow, the weather, if you can't see the clouds? And that's why, just like a television can change from one channel to another, or a radio can change stations, satellites can change the frequency of the electromagnetic spectrum that they're looking at. We can go to infrared instead of visible light. You know, it's heat energy. You can see heat, and we've got another satellite picture from the same time, same satellite, out over the Pacific Ocean. That's the infrared side. And we're seeing temperature there. And even at night, when there's no light, everything still has a temperature.
So we're sensing something with a thermometer instead of perhaps the visible side of that, is what you're saying?
That's right. On this depiction, colder features are lighter shades, warmer features are dark. And so clouds tend to be colder than the ground. Clouds are higher in the atmosphere, it's cooler. And so that very same image on the western, or the left-hand side of the globe, now we can see the clouds there, even though it's nighttime, because we're seeing the temperatures. And one nice feature is that tropical storm there, just in the middle of the northern hemisphere there, hurricane or typhoon, depending on...
That's that swirly part that we see in the middle of the image?
There you go. You can even see the eye on it there, especially in the infrared image. So we've got two kinds of imagery there from the same satellite, different instruments, you know, different channels like on a television, visible and infrared. You know, it turns out there's no one magic tool. Each has its strengths, each has its flaws, weaknesses. The visible is nice, it's intuitive, it's easy to understand, but doesn't work at night. Infrared is nice, it works at night, you can see temperatures, but there is a catch. What if your clouds and the nearby bare ground or open water, what if those were about the same temperature?
Oh, that's going to be hard to figure out what's going on.
If you can only see temperature and you have two features that are the same temperature, they will look the same. You won't be able to tell. They're camouflaged. This happens, especially, it can happen around Alaska, especially over the ocean when you have low clouds that are the same temperature as the open water.
That happens quite a bit in Alaska.
We have an example. Now, this is from a different geostationary satellite. It's down over the Atlantic Ocean. Look in the South Atlantic. In infrared, we've highlighted in a yellow circle there. There's some patches of clouds, but it looks like there's a clear area in the middle of that image. That's the infrared look. But let's take a look at the visible channel, and we can see there's a stripe of clouds across the middle of that circle that is only visible in the visible. The trick here is that those are low clouds of about the same temperature as the surrounding ocean. So from an infrared point of view, where you're seeing temperature, The clouds in the water nearby are the same temperature. They look the same. It's only on the visible that you can see what stands out as the actual imagery.
Okay.
Two tools, each have their strengths and weaknesses. Can we combine them? That's where the day-night band comes in.
Oh, okay.
It's a super sensitive visible sensor that can actually see by moonlight. It can even see the aurora.
Wow.
And in Alaska, we have long winter nights. We can use that day-night band. Here's an example from that storm that blew the Kullik drilling platform ashore near Kodiak Island in December back in 2012. This image is right near when that storm happened, and it's in the middle of the night in December.
But this looks like visible imagery.
Looks like daytime imagery. It's amazing. That sensor can take any little bit of moonlight and just make the most of it. We can see so much detail. Even in the northern part of the image there, you can see some aurora up there. The northern lights
That's that band that goes across the Arctic slope?
You got it. That's the northern lights. We're seeing black and white image here, so you don't get the green or the purple colors there.
that?
But that is the aurora. There's another example of the day-night band, and this is from January of 2013. It's about 4 in the morning, and this is a snapshot from Weather Service software. And we can even see in the middle of the image, there's the lights of Fairbanks and North Pole over to Eielson Air Force Base. Anchorage and Matsu lights, city lights, are evident as well. We can see, even though it's 4 in the morning in January, there is no sunlight to be had, that just enough moonlight is available that this sensor can see that. So we're trying to solve that puzzle where visible light is good, but only during the daytime. IR is good at night, but you can't see the difference between clouds and ground sometime. The day-night band is an attempt to do the best of both with one tool. And it's brand new for Alaska here, and we're hoping to use it in the forecast process and help predict storms, weather patterns, to help get good forecasts for people.
Okay, another tool in the weather toolkit for meteorologists in Alaska and researchers worldwide. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us today. And you can learn more about Dehne and the day-night band by going to the web address that you see on your screen. For Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the segment break there. Sea ice analysis today, continuing to grow in Cook Inlet, continuing to grow out here over the Bering Sea, and that should be a little more growth or at a little bit higher rate here over the next 5, 6, 7 days. It'll be pushing more to the southwest, and Bristol Bay start heading back towards St. Matthew Island. Also, ice will continue to grow over the next week in Cook Inlet. Coastal water forecast, northeast 15 to 20 knots, south coast of the Panhandle. Lighter, more variable winds at 10 knots on the north coast, seas 7 to 8 feet there. North 15 knots, northern central inside waters, north 10 for Clarence Strait, seas at 2 feet. And the outlook for Wednesday, small craft advisories here along much of the coastline out of the southeast 25 knots with 11 to 13 foot seas up until you get up there toward Yakutat, then it's northeast at 20 with 8 foot seas, north 20 Lynn Canal, northeast 15 Stevens Passage, southeast winds 20 knots for Clarence Strait. Prince William Sound, light winds tomorrow, variable to south at 10 knots, seas 2 feet or less, pretty slight. Variable winds at 10 knots here for the North Gulf Coast with 6 foot seas. Light winds also for the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay from the north at 10 knots with 2 to 5 foot seas. Cook Inlet, light northerly winds at 10 knots with seas south of the Forelands, maybe up to 2 feet. So really laid down wind pattern coming up for tomorrow. And then Wednesday, no difference for Cook Inlet, north at 10 knots. But coming up, Kamishak Bay, northwest, 25 knots. So small craft advisories, both Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands. And otherwise, not much change here for the North Gulf Coast. West side here picking up from the north to maybe 15 knots. Otherwise, north at 10 for the Middleton Island zone on up across Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island, east-northeast winds tomorrow, 10 knots. Light winds these areas as well with northwest 15, Bering Sea side of the peninsula, northeast 20, maybe there for the Pacific side. Bristol Bay, light east winds at 10 knots, seas 2 feet. Outlook for Wednesday, north 15 for Bristol Bay, and now something of an increase here for the marine zones around the Alaska Peninsula. North top side, northeast at 15, and south side, northeast 25. Small craft advisories from Cape Sarachev northeastward with northerly winds 25 knots right up the east side of Kodiak there, northwest 20 for Shelikof Strait. Fox Islands tomorrow, north to northeast winds 20 to 25 knots, seas 7 to 11 feet, north to northeast 20 to 30 knots for the central Aleutians, and that falls back and then kind of becomes variable here west of Kamchatka. And then Chimney-Attu Islands way out there turning south of 15. And then gales come in with that stronger system that's off to the southwest, east 35 knots. And that extends into the Adak-Atka area on the south shores, north shores there, northeast at 30 knots, and east-northeast 20-25 knots there for the Fox Islands. Southwest coast looking like this tomorrow, southern Nunivak Island, southwest 20 knots. Strongest winds will be along the Yukon Delta coast from the south at 30 knots, northwest 25, St. Matthew Island, 15-knot winds for St. Lawrence Island, and 15-knot northwest winds for the Pribilofs. Northeast at 10 for the Pribilofs on Wednesday under high pressure, and variable 15 here along the southwest coast, west 15 for St. Lawrence Island, southwest 10 for Norton Sound. Beaufort Sea, you're looking at east winds tomorrow at 20 knots here on the east side, otherwise lighter winds coming down to 15 knots central coast, down to 10 knots there on the west side, Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort southerlies at 15 knots. So you're going to lose those stronger winds you had, say, at Red Dog and Point Hope today, be down considerably tomorrow. And for Wednesday, southwest 15 knots, Wales up to Cape Thompson, Cape Beaufort, north 15, then back to the western and central coast, and then west-southwest, only 15 knots there for the eastern stretch of the Beaufort Sea coastline. And for tonight, pretty clear up there. Winds on the light side and definitely below zero, but nothing too terribly cold. Milder temperatures with the increase in the clouds and maybe some flurries, light snow showers coming into the central interior areas, maybe even the Tanana Valley. And then this area is shifting northward, Susitna Valley and especially the Matanuska Valley. Probably see snow much of the night down along the North Gulf Coast into the Copper River Basin, and diminishing snow or rain for the northern Panhandle, some rain catching the southern southeast coast tomorrow. And it's really the next day you'll see another change, more moisture flowing northward, especially along that trough axis, milder temperatures, chilling off again over the interior, especially south, gale force winds out in the Aleutians. Thank you for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.